Hi, I'm Zach. I'm a sales engineer with Uplogix, and I want to take some time today to show you a few quick tips and tricks with setting up your new Uplogix Local Manager. If you look below, you'll find a link to our Quick Start Guide. Please take a look at that when you get a chance. It goes into a lot of this in more detail, and if you need to refer back to it, it's a great handy reference. Now let's take a look in the box. Here we have a standard Uplogix 500 box. You pull it out here, just take out the foam. You can see the local manager itself in all of its glory. And then below it, you'll find a quick start guide here on how to connect to your computer. We'll go over that in a second. And you'll also see some of the extras here. A side mounting bracket, screws are included, along with some little rubber feet if you want to set it down on your desk. And of course, power adapters. And finally, an RJ45 to DB9 connector. This will come in handy in a minute when we talk about connecting over to your computer. Here we have the box for the larger Uplogix 5000. See here, it's a little bit more space here, a little bit more room for padding. Below some of this padding, we have the local manager itself. This may come with different option cards depending on what density you purchase, but this is just a blank one here with the default 5 ports. And here is your accessory kit. This has a lot of the same stuff as the 500 did. Key difference is we use an internal power brick, so you'll just have 2 of these standard power connectors, 2 rack mounts and attached screws for those, and then 1 DB9 to RJ45 adapter, and a quick guide on how to use that. Now that you have your local manager unboxed, you're ready to get it plugged in and hooked up to the rest of your devices. So for the rest of this, I'm going to be using just a local manager 5000. All of the configuration will be the same, and a lot of these connections will be the same, just very small difference. So it'll work for if you're setting up a 500 as well. First off, I'm going to show you just here where you're going to plug in the Ethernet to your 5000. You can see the GE0 and GE1 ports here. You just want to plug it into the GE0 there. And that'll provide your management traffic to access the 5000. Now, depending on what out-of-band strategy your company is using, you might be using a different kind of module here. This is our V92 modem module. If you're using that, then you'll want to hook that up to your POTS line, like so. And finally, you'll want to also hook up all the managed devices that you're going to be talking to. In this example, I'm just going to use this Cisco 891 router. I'm going to hook it up to port 11. You can see them labeled here on my 5000. And I'm going to plug that into the console port on the Cisco device. Once the device is all cabled up and you have it connected to all the Cisco or other devices you want to talk to, and you have your Ethernet plugged in, then we can go ahead and power it on. On the 5000, we have this front panel here, and you'll just hold the power button for a second, and you'll see it light up. The power on process is just slightly different for the 500. As you can see, you don't have the front panel LCD screen like you do with the 5000, although the rest of the front is pretty much the same. You do have this button here, that's your power on button. You'll get this amber light when you have applied power to the device, but it's not yet powered on. And all you'll need to do is click that power button for a second, and you'll start to see the light change as it goes through the boot up process. Now, because we don't have that LCD screen and panel, you will have to go into the console port over here if you want to configure the device directly. Once the 5000 is done scrolling through its initial boot prompt, you'll start to see a variety of information scroll through here, data on the individual ports it's managing, IP address, version of code. You can scroll through these at will using the keypad here. And you can also go in by clicking the middle to this config menu. You get a few different commands here. Configure, reset, shut down, and if you go way down, factory reset. If you go to configure, you'll go through a prompt that will walk you through a lot of the low-level configuration, including some of the stuff I'm going to show you in a minute on the CLI. Using DHCP, using a management server, a pulse server, and IP addressing the device itself. Now, to talk to these devices over the console and get them configured, assuming you're not using the 5000's LCD screen, or if you're configuring a 500, you're going to need this DB9 to RJ45 adapter that came with it in the box. You're going to need to use this in conjunction with a standard straight-through cable, like so, and you'll have to plug this into your computer. A lot of computers have serial ports built into them. If you don't have one, you will need a USB to serial adapter like this one. Once you have this cable assembled and the serial end plugged into your computer, then you'll need to put this end into the console port on your 5000 or the console port on your 500, depending on which one you want to configure. Additionally, if you want to use the mini USB console port, you can simply use a mini USB to USB cable like this one, plugging this end into your computer and the mini USB end into the device you want to configure. So now that we have the local manager online, up and running, plugged into to everything we need to be plugged into, now we need to go in and actually do some configuration. Some of this is redundant if you've already done the front panel configuration with the keypads I was mentioning. But if you have a 500, or if you just haven't done that, then you'll still need to go through this. So I've connected to it using that RJ45 to DB9 connector that came in the box. And then you'll need to use, whatever terminal emulation program you have. I use PuTTY, and then I had to use a USB to serial adapter. So however you normally connect to your devices, just kind of go through that same process. Once you're in, you'll need to hit enter just once to wake up the session, and then you'll get this login prompt. Our login defaults are always admin and password, and then you'll get this dashboard, and then it will put you into the your prompt below right here. It'll always say what your username is, and then the host name of the device. The host name by default is the serial number, so that's what it will look like out of the box. I just want to give you a really high-level view of some of the commands you want to run. I'm not going to go into too much depth with it, so just know that if you have more questions, please look at the quick start guide that we have linked below, which will walk through some of these commands in a little more detail. And then we also have far more extensive documentation on our support site, so definitely check that out if you have more questions. But this will get you just sort of situated. When you first log in, you'll be in what we call the system resource. And that's the highest level resource, and it allows you to run commands to configure and control the local manager itself, but not the devices it's connected to. So you can always see what commands you have available to you with a question mark, which will display them here. And then if you want to know more about specific commands, so I see config as an option, then I can say, well, config what? Config, I can do config export, I can do config date, I can do config role. I have all these different options, and then you can always just add question marks to know more. If you try to do an incomplete command, then you also say, hey, that's not complete. You need to add, one of the following. Very similar to that. We also do command shortening, which can be useful for saving you some keystrokes. The first command you're probably going to want to run is config system IP to get your device online. Once again, I'm not going to walk through all these, but just the important ones. Are you using DHCP? What's your IP address? What's the new host name of the device going to be? This will also prompt you if you want to use DNS. So if you have, for some reason, set up your UCC to use a host name, you will need to put DNS there before you can reach it. You'll want to hit yes to change these. It always shows you these values and these commands before, see if you want to change them. So this is what you currently have set. Do you want to change them? Hit yes, and then you can go in and walk through them one by one. I'm going to skip out of that for right now just so we can go on. The next command is config system management.
Keep in mind that command abbreviation I mentioned, so I can do conf sysman as config system management. And this command will allow you to get your local manager talking to the UCC and actually exchanging data. So this is almost always the second command you're going to want to run after you get your device online. So this pretty simple as well. You know, it says, hey, this is what you currently have set. Do you want to change it? The ones you want to change are these two. Use management server, you need to change that to true, and then hostname or IP, you're going to want to change that to the address that you use to reach your UCC. All this stuff you should leave alone. All right. Once you have that set up, depending on how you have your implementation, you may or may not need this, but config system pulse, or once again, conf sys pulse. That's useful for out-of-band configuration. So if you have your local manager set up to automatically create an out-of-band session when the network goes down, you'll need to configure pulse. If you don't know what it is, you probably don't need it. If you do know it, then that's where it is. Config system pulse. Now, to get actually talking to the managed devices that you're connecting to, you'll need to get out of this top level system resource that we're in right now. This prompt says, hey, we're just in the system resource. You'll need to actually go to the specific port. Now, that Cisco 891 that I showed you just a moment ago, that is on this device on port 21. Where your device is plugged into is going to change depending on what if you're using a 500, or you're using a 5000, what kind of option cards you've plugged in. So just keep in mind this will line up with the different ports, the physical ports on the front of the device. So once I go to that port, you can see here my prompt changes and says, hey, you're in this unit, but you're also currently in this specific port. So I'm still running commands against the LM. I'm not passed through to the Cisco iOS yet. But now all of my context changes, and now these are all commands that have to deal with this device I'm managing. And before we get our automation up and running, the first thing you should do is you should always test to make sure you can talk to the device. And to that, you want to use this terminal command, or just T for short, to get access to the device and make sure that you can actually get to it and run against it. So you hit terminal, and in this case, you'll see I'm actually not getting anything. It says, hey, this console session has started, and then this below, I'm hitting enter, and nothing's happening. So when you're in a console session, you can always hit ~enter to exit. That's our escape character, so keep that in mind. So I hit ~enter, and I get back in. That's because in this case, I actually have a serial baud rate mismatch. This is very common. So I actually have my this specific device configured to talk on 115.200. So keep in mind that might be different in your deployment, or you might just have a bad cable or something. So always make sure you have those correct before you proceed. If you need to change the serial, you can do that with just config serial from the port that you need to change it on. You can see here it's listed 9600. And then the final command you're going to need to get into is config init. So once you know you can talk to the device, and you'll also need your login credentials, the actual credentials that the Uplogix is going to use to log into the device, because Uplogix is essentially, for all intents and purposes, it's going to present itself as another user to the devices we're managing. So you'll need to have those login credentials before you proceed. The command is config initialization, or just config init for short, and it'll walk you through these steps. Description you can leave blank. It'll auto-populate that with the host name. Make is the really important one. This is what tells it, what actual kind of device are we dealing with here. And we have a variety to choose from. In this case, it's Cisco. Model we can skip. We'll pull that automatically. OS, if you try to skip it, it won't let you. It'll say, nope, we need to choose one. So iOS in this case. OS version, you can skip that. We'll pull it later. The next important ones are management IP address, and then if you're using dedicated Ethernet port. If you don't know what dedicated is, you can probably skip it. That's if you have a private network set up between the local manager and the device. Most customers don't use this. If you are using it, you probably know about it. So most customers are going to want to put in the management IP address of this device. So this is a Cisco 891 router. It has a management IP address on the network that we can route to. You will put that here. And then once you have your network information for the device, and that network information, that management IP address, that allows us to do file transfers to and from the Cisco, in this case, the Cisco device. And that is crucial for a lot of our more advanced automation. When you want to, for instance, pull Cisco iOS, you don't want to be doing that over the console. It takes too long. So we'll need to use an Ethernet connection for that. Finally, you'll need to put in the actual credentials that you're going to use to log in. In this case, it's user and password. And ask me to confirm. Now, make sure that you have a user set up for just Uplogix. Uplogix should have its own username. It shouldn't be using like someone else's username. We're going to log in. We're gonna run automation based off of this. So make sure you have that set up. And then if you don't have, for instance, like I have this device set up to not use an enable username. I just have it with an enable password. You can just hit enter and you can skip it. So in this case, I do have an enable password. I'll put that in. And that one. And then if you have secondaries for any of these, you can put that in, like if you have a TACX failover. Otherwise, you can just skip through them. And then finally, serial baud rate. Now, I happen to know ahead of time that this one is 115200, but most of the time, 9600 is fine. And then we'll walk through the rest of these, and it'll ask you to make the changes. Once you commit the changes, it'll go through a whole bunch of automation and testing, and present its findings to you. It'll say, hey, everything's well and good. I can talk to the device. I schedule all these default jobs. We're up and running. I'm going to skip through that now because I just want to do one last thing here. Once you have that device set up, then you may want to set up like a power control. A power controller is very similar to setting up one of these devices, except it's done from a different resource. So to get out of this port 11 resource, we can just type exit, and we'll go back to the system resource. And now we can type power control. And that gets us to the power control resource. You can see our prompt changes as well. And that is also set up through config init. Once again, you'll need to make sure that you have the right serial baud rate. You can talk to it, and you'll need to make sure that you have the right login info. I'm using a server tag, so the defaults are like ADMN. It just depends what model you're using. If you're using APC, whatever the case may be. And that is it for the super high level view. You probably also, depending on how you're using us, you probably also have a modem or similar out of band that you want to set up. You can get to that resource by typing modem. You can see the prompt changes once again. This is a little more complex, and we actually have our own guides covering this, so I'm not going to touch on it too much now. But yeah, please look on our support site. But it will be very different depending on if you're using a V92 analog modem versus GSM, CDMA, cellular, or if you're using Iridium or Fleet Broadband. So those all have kind of different configurations depending on what route you're going. But almost always you configure those through this modem resource here. So that's how you do that. Once again, you can always go back to that top level resource there. So those are the sort of key commands that you need to run to get this device up and running. If you need more information on any of those specific commands, once again, please consult that quick start guide, and then always have a look on our support site. And if you have any questions, comments, anything comes up, or you want to let us know information, if you like what you see, or if you have some comments or some things you think we could do better, please let us know. Send our support team an email, go on our website and submit comments there. We always like hearing our feedback from our customers, and have a great day.